as I'm videoing this happening, the guy looks over at me and he goes, "You're going to need to go back through the line." He's messing with me when he's going through there, but it was a fun experience. There's some other fun stories from that weekend. So, winning with the right attitude. This is something that I've been passionate about my entire life. I've been fortunate to have the parents that I do, and still have my folks, which I feel very grateful for. But they preach this to me every day, so it's something that I feel in my core. You have a bad attitude. What a great attitude. Change your attitude. Have an attitude of gratitude. You need an attitude adjustment. I think I said it to my kids a couple times. Just have a positive attitude. What's up with the tude? We've all been told that attitude matters, but what does it really mean? This is not the technology course, this is the attitude course. So having the right attitude. Attitude is what we are capable, ability is what you're capable of doing. Motivation determines what you do. And your attitude determines how well you'll do it. And that's Lou Holtz, former Notre Dame head coach, football coach, and then in South Carolina. Defining a positive attitude. We've been told, or we've heard from a lot of different people what a positive attitude, but positive attitude is looking adversity in the eye and laughing. Using the power of a smile. We saw a lot of those just a minute ago, and Tommy alluded to that, to reverse the tone of a situation. Being a source of energy that lifts those around you. Being happy even when you have very little. Being happy for someone else's success. That's a hard one for some people, to not be jealous of others. Having a positive future vision, no matter how bad your current circumstances. Telling someone you know they did a great job and meaning it. Paying a compliment to a total stranger. Not letting other people's negativity get you down. And expecting the best to happen always. Positive attitude really does matter. I go back, this is my junior year in high school, 1989, I'll let you figure that out. The spring of that year, my junior year, I started having some medical issues and couldn't really figure out what it was. Hepatitis B was going around, so we didn't know if I'd caught that. There was other things going on. But eventually that May, I found it kind of came to the point where my whole upper right half had no feeling at all. Couldn't feel it. It was like I was asleep, like I laid on it, going to sleep. So they checked for MS, MD, all kinds of stuff. I really couldn't figure out what was going on with me. So eventually we had an MRI. We found out that I had an aneurysm, a brain aneurysm. If you've ever walked behind me, besides noticing the bald spot, you notice I've got a 6-inch scar back here. Unfortunately for me, that was found before it burst, because if it had burst, I'd have been dead where I stood. But it was like a cluster of blood vessels, kind of like an old kinked up garden hose. And they found that, luckily for me, July 3rd, 1989, they went in, burned out all the metal stuff, reconnected. Sounds easy, that was 6 hours of surgery, followed by about a month of recovery. I lost about 30 pounds, and at that time I didn't have it to give. But it really changed my entire outlook on life. Up to that point, I was pretty invincible. I was 16 years old, and nothing can really, beat me or whatnot, and I could do anything I really wanted to. But it really changed my perspective on life. Unfortunately, I recovered from that. I remember the morning I was going into surgery. My father had 2 weeks prior had slipped 2 discs in his back at the same time, so he was in immense pain. But he made my sister drive him. It was about an hour drive from where lift to the hospital so he could see me before I went in. As soon as I went in, he left to go back and lay back down because it was in such pain. So that attitude, that positive, that support has always been there in my life, and I feel very fortunate to have that. Second thing that happened in that same year, going into my senior year, I was playing basketball with some friends of mine right after school, and we were just pickup game at the gym, and I went up for a layup, and some guy took my legs out from underneath me, and I pretty much just did a head first dive from about 8 feet and bounced my head off the basketball court. Some of you will say that explains a lot. So I end up, as soon as I sat up, the guy said, "Are you okay?" And I had about 21 stitches right above my left eye. Unfortunately for us, there was a CPR course that had been taught at the high school that day. So the ambulance was still in the parking lot. So they were able to see me, and then I went to the hospital to get it stitched up. And that was in March of that same 12-month period. Fast forward a little bit to the first week of June, I'm going to cap and gown practice for my senior year. In a hurry, I'd forgotten my cap and gown, had to turn around and go back home. You know, I didn't live that far from the school, but it still was going to make me late. I'm hustling to school. Sun's just coming up. It's about 7:30. I turned left in front of another car. I hit this car head on. We both went about 45. Thankfully for me, my parents were real adamant about me wearing a seatbelt. So had not, I would definitely not be here. I'd been on through the windshield and on the pavement somewhere. But the seatbelt broke my collarbone, fortunately, and kept me from getting injured more than that. But I totaled my car, I totaled the other car. The woman that I hit shattered some ribs, broke her kneecap, other things. And I remember going down to, that was pre-cell phones. So I remember going down to this little house that was right there. I couldn't get out from underneath the seatbelt. It wouldn't come undone, so I had to climb out from underneath it. Because the seatbelt was broken, it kind of broke in the thing, but didn't let go, thank goodness. And check on her, and then I run down to call 911. So I call 911 from this lady's house, and she can see the cars in the middle of the road. And the second call I make to my father, and he was a middle school principal, so I called the school. And I'll never forget, he said, you know, I was so upset because this car that I had a 85 Camaro, it was cool. And I just had it repainted at Christmas, and so it lasted all of about five months worth of paint job. But I had called him, and I was so upset about this car that I've totaled this car. And I can still remember him saying, "You think I care about that car?" He says, "You're alive, that's all I care about." And so again, put it life in perspective for me at age 16 and age 17 has been a pretty big thing. But that was 3 things within a 12-month period, and I think Blue Cross Blue Shield just about had enough of me during that time. Fast forward to December of last year. I'm hustling around. So first weekend of December, we have a ladies' event that evening, kind of a holiday party. And I called my wife and said, "Hey, you want to meet for lunch real quick?" So we went to our favorite little Mexican restaurant. It's pouring down rain. I'm running in. I'm in a hurry. I dropped off, I got paid that day, so I checked the bank, and I'm running around. I've got stuff to do before I get to the ladies, printing out awards that we're going to give out, and hustling. So I run in to the restaurant to go meet her. And as I jump over a puddle, I don't see the new sign that they had just put up telling where things were. And this is a significant road sign. So I catch the edge of this thing, and it knocks me back into the parking lot. And huge mark up here, probably can still see this one right here. But just rocked me when I got there. So again, and that was the first time since '89 I've been injured or need to go to the hospital. So the owner comes out, sees me. He's so upset. I said, "I'm okay. I know where I am. I didn't knock myself out." But having a positive attitude. After that point, my wife shows up, and so I go out to the car, and we get the first aid kit that's supposed to be for the kids, but now it's for me. So I go out there, get it cleaned up and whatnot, and I'm like, I don't think I need stitches, but let's just go through a drive-through somewhere, we'll get something. And she says, "But it's Fajita Monday." So I put a couple Band-Aids on, and we go in and sit down with a low cap on to go in and have lunch, and my wife shares that same positive attitude. But one thing I always say is that, when we make plans, God laughs. And I was in such a hurry. I had my whole day planned out, and He told me to slow down just a little bit. That I was in too big of a hurry, and which was true. And then the rest of my afternoon went fine. It was interesting to try to explain how I got the Band-Aids at the party that night. But there's been things in my life like those that really keep me knowing that there's a greater good out there for me, and that I'm really here for a reason, and I hope to be standing where Tommy Wade is and others, talking about sharing the enthusiasm that I have and the love for this sport, the love of other people, to be able to be with those folks. Your attitude is bred from your qualities. What are some good, positive qualities that we can share? Brett, what's a positive quality that we would have that might be infectious to others?
I'd say enthusiasm.
Enthusiasm. Michael, how about another one?
I would say infectious attitude, like you infect people with your character.
Right. Some things that I think about are being generous, or being loyal, being dependable, right? I had an old GM that used to say all the time, do what you said you would do. That was one of his main tenets. We showed up to meetings. If you had said last Tuesday you were going to get this done, he wanted to hear how it went, not the reasons that it didn't happen. So do what you said you were going to do. Having an understanding. People make mistakes. We all make mistakes. I make a lot of mistakes and have a lot of understanding. Being adaptable, being attentive to other folks. And we take that on the opposite side of negative traits, of being aggressive. Unfortunately for us, we see this in junior tennis a lot. Arrogance, being boastful, being disrespectful. Every generation, I think the generation that we grew up in, we thought all the kids were nice, and the parents said, oh, they're just bad. Then the next generation, we come forward, oh, I can't believe the kids of this generation act the way they do. But I think we can help to change that and tell them that's not the way to be out there. Not being considerate. Superficial, that's a tough one for a lot of us, that the things we have are more important than the things that we are. So that's really tough for us. I have if you know me or follow me, a Facebook friend or whatnot, I'm a big guy on quotes, so you're going to hear a lot of those from me today. And one of the things that my father always told me, my mom told me, you're not asked to do great things, you're asked to do things with great care. We do a lot of the same things every day, getting the kids up, getting them ready, making sure they go to school on time, making sure that we have food for them and all that. Those aren't great things, but those are things that we got to make sure that we hammer out every single day. The things for our students that we have, that we're ready for them when they get out there, that we show that we care. Those are some of the things that we need to do with great care. It's a good quote from Gandhi here. And this is one. Fritz Earle's a good mentor of mine. He was director at Carmel before I started there. Your thoughts become your words. Your words become your behavior. Your behavior become your habits. Your habits become your values. And your values become your destiny. The older I become, I'm 41, I'll be 42 this year, the older I become, the more I think about what our legacy is and what are we going to leave behind for our children and for the next people that follow us, the clubs that we work at, for the people that are in this room, what can we try to share with one another? And so you start out with just the simple thoughts, and they move all the way down to being able to do great things. Our thoughts and our actions. We are a direct result of all of our thoughts and all of our actions. Stop giving, I love this one, stop giving other people the job of making you happy or successful. We have my wife has a couple of friends that are going through some difficult times with separation and divorce, and it's easy for me looking on the outside to say, why are they wanting this other person to make them happy? That's their internal job. Other people can't do that for you. But it's definitely a tough thing for them. There are two types of people that I've come across when it comes to attitude and thought processes. First kind of person is someone that waits for an opportunity to come to them so they can take it. They wait forever for some mirage to show up of some opportunity. And they're doing something they hate because they're not willing to take the risk to go and do something that they love. I was an accountant before I was a tennis pro. I sat in a cube for about 9 months, and it was all right. I like numbers. The worst thing that happened was I got promoted to a junior comptroller and got an office with a window. That was the longest summer of my life, looking out that window from 8 to 5 every day. And then that fall, I told my boss, "I'm going to be a tennis pro. I can't do this. I gotta go." And I remember telling my dad that going home to him, I was going to quit this job. It was a good job. And I thought he was going to be upset. My father was a principal. My mom was a school teacher. And he said, "Do the things that it takes to be a tennis pro then. If that's what you love and you're passionate about, don't do things because you think I want you to be that person. You do the things that are going to make you happy and be able to move forward with that." So again, I attribute a lot back to my upbringing. So the second kind of person is a person that finds a way to create opportunity. They make their own luck, if you will. They live life on their own terms. They live life the way they want to, the way they envisioned it, without fear. Their success, their failure, moving on, getting started. The only fear that you should have in life is just the fear, not the actual activity that can get you to where you need to get to. I like this one. Don't worry if plan A fails. There's 25 other letters in the alphabet. So there's always other options that we can go to. One thing that I was told growing up, and one thing I've started to do for my kids, you may have heard me talk a little about John C. Maxwell, and I heard him speak in High Point about 2 months ago. And I've started writing Post-it notes. I'd forgotten that my parents did that when I was growing up. I started writing little Post-it notes of quotes or sayings or just "I love you" to my wife and to my kids, and put them on the mirrors because I usually leave before they get up in the morning. And it's amazing how that's changed our relationship, and we had a good relationship, but just how much they've looked forward to it. I missed a couple days, and the kids start questioning, "Are you going to put something up there for me to read?" And my daughter's taking them down every day and putting them in her room. So it really is pretty neat. But the one thing that my parents always told me is that you can do anything that you set your mind to. And that's totally true. He also told me you can learn anything from books. But you can do anything that you set your mind to. People disregard it sometimes that successful people are there because they were lucky or they were born into favorable circumstances. We all know stories of people that had awful upbringings and that they've made something out of their life. And we also know stories of people that came up in privilege and that had every opportunity and they didn't do anything with their lives. So I'll debunk that to say that's not true. That we make our own luck. These people did not accept failure and they worked their butts off. How can you beat someone who never quits? You know, you listen to Tommy Wade, and I like to say the same thing too, is that I will not be outworked by somebody, but Tommy might do it. He's pretty hard to follow there. Vince Lombardi once said, "We didn't lose the game, we just ran out of time." Because you keep on fighting for it. So what's our role? What's the teacher's role? I mean, we all have the teacher's mentality. I feel like I'm a teacher. Just tennis is my vehicle. It's the way that I reach people. But there's all the other ways to get to folks. So understanding your complete responsibility as your facility or your student's professional is something that few fully grasp. But the ones that do are successful beyond measure. And I don't mean that by monetary terms, but that will come with good work. But I mean with seeing people grow in their tennis. I mean, how many people are we ever going to coach that are going to go pro? 1, 0. Very few that are ever going to make it pro. But how many we're going to teach that are going to be tennis players when they're adults? I had 2 girls, they were twins, girls that I used to teach at Carmel, and I never could tell them apart. And so I just started calling them Chuck and Bob. And there were two girls, and they loved, I always I nickname a lot of the kids that come out. And if you call them by their real name, they're like, no, it's me, Chuck. So I'm out shopping a couple of Christmases ago, and I'm in the mall, and I hear this voice from across the thing, Coach Todd. I say, yeah. She goes, it's me, Chuck. And so it's just that infectious attitude, and she still laughed about it. We had a good little smile, and I got to talk to her. Now she's a school teacher, and so it's just great to see these people grow up, and we know that by the work that we do that's going to happen. So what are some of our roles? Our roles are to teach respect, to teach our kids to have admiration, and to give our kids that, and loyalty. It's the impact on someone's life as an authority figure is enormous. But once we've built that bridge of trust, they respect your opinion and your thoughts, and they seek out your approval. The life impact is huge. I had one student in Greensboro, his name was Ross. When Ross came out, he was a 6th grader, and he was hanging out by the pool, wasn't doing much of anything, and he was, by his own definition, out of shape and just kind of floating. And I said, well, Ross, why don't you come out and play a little tennis? Just come out, and it was great. You could see the pool was really close to the tennis court, so I'd call him over. And he was one of my kids out there. So eventually he became what I call a court rat. And you couldn't get the kid out of there. And he would be there all the time. Well, slowly but surely, he started getting in better shape. He started liking being out there. He started making friends on the tennis court. And started showing up just to play all the time. And then he continued to get really a lot better. And he played high school tennis. And he would wait for Rhett to come out or Michael to come out. I was there waiting on their doubles matches. Hey, let's play. So he was hitting against the adults all the time and really got into that. When he graduated high school, he went into the Army. And now he is a major in the Army, lives in Germany. But every time he comes through Charlotte, he makes sure to call me and to connect with me. And we usually meet for lunch or something. And he'll share back with me the impact that was on his life, that I saw this little kid that could really do something and be somebody. He didn't have a great home life. So I tried to be that positive influence for him, and I didn't know any better. I was 23, I was just barely wet, still wet behind the ears, but I didn't know any better. But I knew that this kid could be more, like anybody can. I knew that we could be better than we once were. So it was huge for me that he still follows up, and he's doing really great. Mary's got a little girl, and he and I follow each other on Facebook. And it's just really, really great. But the impact, you have no idea the words that you say today, what they're going to have an effect on somebody. A lot of people will talk about, and I always try to give positive feedback. A lot of people will say, well, that's a bunch of BS. It doesn't really matter. The kids are going to be the kids, or the adults are going to be the adults. But if you tell them, give these words of encouragement, I would tell you to go the other direction. Tell your kids that they're not going to amount to anything, or they're not going to do anything with their lives, and see what kind of impact that has on the other direction. And then tell me that that's BS, that the positive side doesn't work. The kids live up to what you tell them. It's that effect. They live up to the expectations that we put out there for them. Our job is to pass forward this knowledge that we have, this love, this sport. Again, we're all teachers, but we pass on this passion, this love of the sport. And it's important, and it has a lot to do with the physical attributes of hitting a tennis ball, but it also has to do with respect of your fellow teammate. The junior team tennis matches, when Michael finishes and he's ready to hop in the car, I'm like, no, we're going to go over, we're going to cheer Red on, because he's on our team, right? We're going to cheer for him, because who knows, he may be down. He sees you over there smiling, and he's going to give you, hey, how'd you do? I did great. Okay, I'm going to pull it together because I want to pull out a win for the team as well. So we pass that knowledge on to our kids, and it's not just the tennis; it's how to treat one another and how to act appropriately. You have no idea. I used to tell my pros at Carmel, when we had these ladies' teams, every once in a while you get somebody just got up on the wrong side of the bed, just not her morning, and I said, you have no idea what this woman heard before she stepped out of that car and came out on this tennis court. I said, her husband could have said, I'm leaving you. Or she could have got a bad medical report. So you have no idea. So don't automatically assume that they're just out there and it's something that they're going to take offense on. Your job is to turn that around. When she leaves this hour and a half or 2 hours that she's with us, she's going to be better off today than when she started out here. And that's our responsibility to pass that knowledge and that respect to one another. We've been thrust into a position of influence with these folks, especially with the kids. It's important, especially with the juniors, that you have enthusiasm. We talked about that, encouragement, and you give them your approval. You may not give much credence to this thought that your knowledge of the game and the God-given skills will overcome negative words or actions on your part. Just one thing that's important to remember here: your students don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. People don't take this important enough. I followed some good pros in the clubs. I followed some bad pros in the clubs. And it is hugely important that you take this responsibility of this position of influence. Again, like I talked about, you have no idea what these kids are hearing before they get to you. We all know fellow tennis professionals who like to tell us and their students how good they are or how great they used to be. I always encourage them to stop doing that and to stop telling their students about their achievements and their competence and start telling their students about how great they can be. Just because I can hit a backhand better than Rhett doesn't make me better than him, right? A lot of pros think that way. I'm a better player than you, so that puts me on a different pillar. John Maxwell at this talk, he was talking about his life's role, and he is the world leader speaking on leadership. He's published 74 books. Incredible. He talks about with the people that he mentors, his job is not to increase the gap between him and them, it's to narrow that gap and bring them up to where he is. And that's his job to do that. He finds that job every day. That's our job too, is to bring those people to where we are. We may be in a position of authority, we may be further down the road with our tennis skills, but our job is to bring them to us, up to where we are, so that they can become better at what they do. Students are the focus, like we talked about. It's not about me, it's about them. Unfortunately, we've got a few pros that I come across that it's definitely about them, and that they're soul killers for these poor kids. It's not my way always. It's how the kids are going to get there. We have to make sure that we tell our students that their future is bright and limitless, and it could just start with you. You have no idea what your students are hearing at home or school, and that one word of encouragement could be the major difference. Some things that are under your control as an influential figure, with your positive encouragement, your heartfelt concern, you can release good things to them in their life. You release self-confidence, you release success, sportsmanship, self-reliance, happiness and healthiness, and many more things. You are responsible for helping them become the best that they can be and helping shape their future. So make sure your students are always the focus. Now, I said this earlier, students don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Fritz Earl said that to me. I don't know who the original quote is from, but he told me that one of my first days. I had the opportunity to work with him. Fritz, and many of you don't know him, he was one of the first 17 master pros. The first class of master pros that went out there, and he was one of the first 17. But he was very humble. It's always about, I remember I took the job over, he goes, just because it didn't work for me doesn't mean something won't work for you. And just because I've taken these steps, I believe that you can go further than that where we go. But he used to say this a lot in the short time that we worked together. Encouragement, again, another huge thing. If you're unwilling or unable to perform these tasks with your kids and your students, don't be surprised if that position of authority is taken away from you. Either you lose your job or they go somewhere else. It definitely can do that. Students will not stick around very long if you're the best quality of professionals that you can beat them, because that's not going to make them stay with you. Engaging our students. It's an interesting thing because And it's a nice thing. People talk about tennis pros. You know, God, it must be boring to say the same thing over and over. Get your racket back early, get your feet moving. Why are you playing the ball so high, so low, too close, too far? All those things. But we repeat those things during the days. But the fun part is figuring out how it works for different kids. I'll give you a good example. Early in my career, I coached high school tennis, and I did that for about 4 years, and I coached the boys and the girls. And so I go up to the fence. They hired me to do the boys season first, and girls played in the fall and boys in the spring. So I had a kid named Stuart. And Stuart, he was a really good player. He was my number one. And he was getting beat by this kid, and he shouldn't be. And so I walked up to the fence. You could talk to him on the change room, and I was like, Stuart, what are you doing out there? And he goes, I can't do it today, coach. I can't do it today. I said, well, do it for yourself. I can't do it. I said, well, then do it for me if you can't do it for yourself. But pick it up, suck it up, go out there, work harder, and let's beat this kid. Turns away from the fence, goes out, comes back, loses to the kid in a really tight tiebreaker to lose the match. But he comes off the court and he says, I gave it everything I had, and that's all I ever asked for the kids. You don't have to win or lose the match, but I want everything you've got while you're out there. So you can look yourself in the eye, and you can look me in the eye and say, I did my absolute best. But he was one that you could get in their face and get them to pump up. Take that on the opposite side of the coin. I had my fall season that year, and I had a young girl named Jenny. And Jenny was all backhand, no